the toilet and nothing comes out. Sometimes some gas comes out, nothing comes out. And they're frustrated. They're already irritated and angry. And if somebody comes in between what they are doing, they would be very angry. And that is Naxwamika. So Naxwamika has a lot of hidden traits that are very similar to sulfur. When the Naxwamika patient would develop into a sulfur patient, they would be like, a scholar who is buried in thought and in books and doesn't like anybody approaching. They have their philosophical point of view which they are arriving at or keeping on arriving at, and they would be very idealistic and very, very dominating and very strong about it. Like, they wouldn't let their point be contradicted by others so easily. Phosphorus doesn't even mind. He is open to all impressions and all points of views. And if somebody contradicts them badly, they won't even realize it. Arsenicum is like, I am still working on it and I have not yet reached a point. Sulfur is like, I have the point and this is the right point, and you cannot contradict it. And it's very difficult for a person to contradict a sulfur because they would have all the points that back up their particular theory. And that's why it's not so wise to go and argue with a sulfur unless you have a lot of humility, because they are very egoistical, selfish, and they would fight for their point. They would not fight for money. They would not fight for a wife. They would not fight for children. They would not fight for material things. They would fight for that particular philosophical understanding or their particular point that they are making. It could be a sociological point, philosophical point, intellectual point, whatever it is. It is right. And this is how it is. They would be they would be invested in that particular idea that they would be ready to fight anyone to prove themselves and their point right. So we come back to Nash, and Nash says, when carefully selected remedies like Naxwamika fail to act favorably, sulfur is useful. But he makes a significant point. He says that sulfur is not the only remedy capable of removing those psoric complications. Sulfur may be oftener indicated here. There are other antipsorics like sorinum, causticum, graphitis, etc., which may follow Naxwamika instead of sulfur. So when we prescribe, we need to keep our minds open that, okay, we gave Naxwamika acted well, and it's no longer acting in that patient. But we do not have the totality of symptoms that resemble sulfur. We should not give sulfur. If the totality resembles sorinum or causticum or graphitis, all of these are chilly patients, then you give these particular medicines depending upon what the totality of symptoms indicate. But if it is a sulfur case, you must give sulfur because it is a deep acting medicine. It would not only heal the patient, it would bring out all those things that are hidden within the patient and make them visible. There are many areas where the patient would require healing, and these medicines, these sulfur kind of antipsoric medicines, arsenicum, sulfur, phosphorus, would go deep into the system, and they would help the patient to throw these symptoms out. Sometimes there may be older symptoms which the patient may have had and he has forgotten completely. They no longer exist for him, but they have come back. Sometimes it may be a symptom that the patient has gotten used to and is not so much concerned about. They do not seek healing for it, but it has increased remarkably after taking this medicine, and they kind of want to now tell the doctor about this particular symptom that was there but not so prominently there. Like, they could bear it, but now it has become unbearable, like an itch which was bearable, but now it is not bearable, like a burning which was bearable before, but now it is not so bearable. So that is the property of this particular medicine, which would bring out certain symptoms or exaggerate or increase or exacerbate or what do you say, increase a certain symptom, or it may bring out new symptoms. Patient never had these symptoms, but he's susceptible. So when these things happen, what we need to do is we need to carefully watch before we prescribe and understand what would be required after this. Sometimes we may need to give a lower potency, sometimes we may need to give an antidote, sometimes we may need to give a complementary, sometimes we may not need to give anything, just wait. It is all described in Kent's lectures on organon of medicine. What we need to do when after giving a deep acting medicine, the patient sometimes has an increase of symptoms that he was used to, sometimes has new symptoms, sometimes the existing complaint increases. So whatever happens, we have a protocol to follow. We know what to do next in such cases. But the main thing regarding Medica is to understand what is a sulfur patient, who is a sulfur patient, and also what are sulfur's indications. And one of the chief indication of sulfur is when well-selected medicines fail to act deeply and heal the patient fully. Another indication that he has said is that redness and burning. One of the chief characteristics of this remedy is found under burning. Burning on vertex, burning in eyes, painful smarting, burning water from the nose, burning in face without redness, burning pain in tongue, burning vesicles in mouth, sore throat with great burning and dryness. First right, then left. Right followed by left. Remember, this is not just lycopodium. Burning sore throat, right, then left. Sulphur. Burning stomach, burning and pressure in rectum, burning and itching in hemorrhoids. Itching hemorrhoids. Reminds of some other medicine, right? Aloes. Burning in anus, burning in urethra, burning in vagina, scarcely able to keep still. When they have the burning in the vagina, they cannot keep still. They are all the time restless. Nipples burn like fire. Burning in chest, rising to face, burning between scapulae. Other medicines are phosphorus and lycopodium. It happens usually in certain liver complaints. So burning between scapulae, phosphorus, lycopodium, and sulfur. Burning of hands, burning of feet, and you find it in diabetic neuropathy. And for diabetic neuropathy, when there is a burning of soles and the patient is already a hot patient and very thirsty, give sulfur. It would heal. I've seen many people get relief with sulfur in diabetic neuropathy. Burning of hands, burning of feet. Must put them out of bed. You will see that the patient will put the feet out of the bed and the feet will not be covered. I have seen this exact symptom in my father and sometimes in my mother too. My mother got relief with a different medicine called CKL-core, but father got relief with sulfur. That's the beauty of homeopathy. Hot flushes and burning all over. Burning skin of the whole body. Itching eruptions, burn after scratching. As I said, there would be itching eruptions, burn after scratching. The patient would be compelled to scratch until it burns or bleeds. Scratches until it bleeds. Alumina is also there. But alumina, again, the chronic of alumina, if you look at it, is sulfur. And sulfur also gives burning sensation. After reading such a list of burning and the cured and characteristic symptoms of sulfur, one does not wonder that hell is represented as being heated by this substance. Hell is heated by sulfur. Like God poured sulfur, burning sulfur upon Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible, right? And then we see these burnings in the pathogenesis of sulfur. For it seems by its pathogenesis as though it were eternally burning. Sulphur was eternally burning, or something that produces burning. Arsenicum, album, phosphorus, and sulfur lead the list in our Medica for burners. These burning sensations are found in both acute and chronic diseases. Of course, there are several other remedies that have this symptom in an intense degree and must be chosen if the other symptoms come in to complete the picture of similarity. Among these of the first importance may be aconite, agaricus, apis, belladonna, cantharis. Cantharis is a very significant burning remedy. Capsicum, carbo animalis, then phosphoric acid. All these medicines have burnings. Apis, hot patient with burnings, thus less. Belladonna, chilly patient with burning and suddenness of complaints. Aconite, suddenness, burning. Chilly patient, restless and anxious. Cantharis, burning, usually urinary tract infection, before, during, and after urination. And the patient is chilly. Capsicum, burning in a homesick patient. Homesickness is the main significant point that we can remember about capsicum. There are other points also. Phosphoric acid, very weak patient and with burning and extreme thirst. Chilly patient. I think arsenicum leads all acute diseases, while sulfur leads in all chronic affections. We as homeopaths do not yet fully appreciate the value of sensations. The action of sulfur upon the circulation is to cause and cure local congestions and a chronic tendency thereto. In other words, it seems to have the power of equalizing the circulation in persons subject to such local congestions and inflammations. The patient feels so oppressed that he wants doors and windows open. The rush of blood seems to fill the whole chest. The heart feels as if too full, palpitates and labors as if trying to rid itself of a burden. Congestions to head, congestions to chest, with a great difficulty of breathing. So it's like blood rushes into head, blood rushes into chest. See, the patient would have burning and patient would have redness. If the blood rushes to any place, there would be redness, right? And then there will be congestion. They would feel that oppression. And the patient feels so oppressed that they want doors and windows open. They're hot and they want doors and windows open. Orifices of the body are red, as if pressed full of blood. The lips are red as vermilion, ears very red, eyelids red, anus red, urethra red. All these are manifest indications for sulfur. I have seen too much of it and have cured many cases of that character, where a restoration of the skin disease relieved the internal which had followed its retrocession or suppression. So after the suppression of a skin disease, other manifestations would come. And when you give sulfur, those other manifestations would be healed and the skin disease would reappear. And as I told you about the atopic triad, it is present in sulfur too. Sulfur is also a significant remedy for atopic triad. Atopic dermatitis, atopic rhinitis, and atopic atopic asthma. Sulfur has the power of absorbing certain inflammatory processes. According to Nash, bryonia is one of the remedies first thought of in such cases. Calumure is another. But if it is complicated by psora and burning stand out prominently, sulfur might benefit. Bryonia and sulfur complement each other. As I said, sulfur is a complementary and chronic medicine of many medicines in the Medica, Naxomica, Bryonia, pulsatilla, and alumina, and many others. So first you may give bryonia and there will be some relief. Bryonia is also a hot patient, thirsty, desire warm food and drinks, stitching pains, aggravated by motion, ameliorated by rest, and very angry and irritable, homesick sometimes, and always worried about their financial status, fears that they would become poor. And then you have chronic of it, and you see all the chronic symptoms